Hello, I'm James Kilgore. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Outreach for First Followers Reentry Program in Champaign, Illinois. We've been operating since 2015. We began as a drop-in center where people coming home from prison would come and we would try to assist them to meet their needs, housing, employment, sometimes just psychologically adapting to the transition from incarceration to the streets. We also are an organization that's led by formerly incarcerated people. So we've been through some of the challenges that the people that come to us are facing. And one of the challenges they face is there any way to get that criminal record out of the way? Can they get rid of it so it doesn't continue to plague them so that every time they go to apply for a job or apply for an apartment, they don't get a background check that bounces them off the list? So this morning, we're going to continue with our series of Know Your Rights by looking at the processes of expungement and sealing, which are ways in which people can deal with that background and maybe put themselves in a better position to advance. And fortunately, we have with us today Mr. Jerome White, who is what we call a jailhouse lawyer. He spent over 2 decades in IDOC. And during that time, he didn't waste his time. He didn't just play dominoes or watch soap operas on television. No, he studied law and he developed a whole set of expertise that he's been able to use to assist other people who are trying to either get out of prison or put themselves in a better situation when they're out here. So he's going to help us a little bit today talking about expungement and sealing. But first off, I'm going to just welcome you, Jerome, and ask you to tell us a little bit about your own personal history before we get into the heart of the matter here, expungement and sealing.
Thanks, James. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this important information that we're about to share. I'm Jerome White. I was in prison for 26 years with a sentence of natural life without the possibility of parole. While there, I began to study law in order to try to get relief. Uh, like James said, I didn't play dominoes. I went to school, Lewis University, got a paralegal certificate, and started helping myself and others. And what I learned inside the prison system, I brought it out here with me to try to help and build my community, to empower them. First Followers is a boots on the ground program, organization. I associate myself with them. At present, I work for Illinois Legal Aid Online, which is an awesome powerhouse itself. I also associate myself with Access to Justice, Westside Justice Center. And I'm here now to talk about the expungements and sealing of criminal records.
Thanks, Jerome. Welcome. So let's just begin by telling us the basics. What is expungement? What is sealing? What's the difference between the two?
Expungement is when you can take your arrest record all the way out of the police database and other agencies' database. Sealing is when you can hide an eviction. I'm sorry, a conviction. You can hide a conviction. That's the difference in the two.
So when you say hide, what does that mean?
You sealing it where if you going to for a job interview, or you trying to get an apartment, the general public wouldn't be able to see that conviction. The police station or the police would be able to see it. Anybody that do a hard background check, if you're trying to get into work for a hospital, if you're trying to work for Brinks car, they would be able to see that sealing. But if you're going to trying to get a job at Caterpillar, Dollar Tree, Walmart, they wouldn't be able to see the ceiling.
All right, so this can be a great help for people who are trying to make their way as they come out of prison. Um, so how does somebody go about doing this? What are the basic steps?
They would go to the police station or the county in which they were convicted in, and they would go to the clerk of the court, uh, request their rap sheet, and while they're there, they would also should ask for the Illinois State Police criminal history, which is free. And once they get that information, they determine what can and can't be sealed or expunged. They also need to look and make sure that when they're looking at their rap sheet, that there's nobody else's name attached to their rap sheet, especially if they got a common name like John Smith or Joe Smith. Those are common names. So sometimes that John Smith might end up on your John Smith rap sheet, and you want to be able to distinguish that and let the people know that that's not you or your case.
Okay. So what kind of, I mean, there's a different group of cases that are eligible for expungement from the group of cases that are eligible for sealing. Can you explain, first of all, what can be expunged?
Anything that any case that you haven't been found guilty of, you haven't been convicted of. And it goes all the way to if you pled guilty to a particular crime and you have to do this probation, depending on how you pled guilty, once you complete that probation, that can be expunged as well. Sealing, what can be expunged is dog fighting, anybody patronizing a sex worker, DUI, reckless driving, murders at this point can't be sealed because now they have to register under the Sex Offenders Act. I had a murder. Prior to that new law, I was able to seal my murder conviction. Guys coming out the prison now have to register under that sex offender law, so they can't seal their murders. Child sexual contacts, things like that can't be sealed. Domestic violence can't be sealed. Arson can't be sealed.
But there's a whole range of things that can be sealed, right? I mean, some of what people might call serious crime. So if you're doing robbery or burglary or you're selling drugs and so forth, those can be sealed, correct?
Yeah, they can. But
So I think
the ones that couldn't be sealed are the ones that I'm naming. So you got a whole range of things that can't be sealed, and I think that's important for the individuals to understand. Everything else can be sealed except for that murder conviction now, because you have to register as a sex offender.
so. I think it's important for people to realize that the laws and the policies around expungement and sealing have changed a lot in recent years. So people who maybe 5 or 10 years ago wanted to get something expunged or sealed probably found that there was almost nothing that fell under those categories and they couldn't get any relief on their case. But now, particularly with the sealing, almost anything can be sealed. So I think it's really important for anyone who's listening to this who has some kind of a conviction or an arrest to go back and look at the new laws and see how they fit into the new laws, because there are opportunities there now that weren't there a few years back. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And to gather that information, I would strongly, the information that to gather is what can and can't be sealed. I would strongly suggest that they look at a LAO website, illinoislegalaid.org, and type in search bar sealing conviction, and that'll give you a comprehensive understanding of what can and can't be sealed. And before you go down to the police station, look and see your rap sheet, what your rap sheet is. You know your cases that you've been convicted of. So go to LAO website.
Okay, and I do want to point out that part of the reason that these laws have changed is because people who have been through the process of incarceration have organized themselves and put pressure on the legislators and done political education in the community to bring some awareness to the fact that people are paying over and over again for their past record. And so it's that initiative, that organizing primarily by people who have been impacted by the system that's caused this change. So this is a way organizations like First Followers, we believe that we're not just there to provide people with support, but we're also there to do advocacy work and fight to change these laws and these policies that continue to penalize people many years after they've been incarcerated or charged with something. So just want to make a, give a shout out there to everybody across the state who put pressure on authorities to make this change. So once you get this thing going, two questions. First, how long does it take? And then secondly, how much is it going to cost you?
Okay, the first question is 6 months to a year to actually get some results. That's if there's no objection by the state's attorney. And if he objects, he automatically gets 60 to 90 days to review what the subject matter is that's asking to be sealed and or expunged. The second question, but before I answer the second question, know that once you file that and that 90-day period is ran, then the judge has to consider the state's attorney objection. If there's no objection, the judge on his own can determine if he should grant you the expungement or the sealing of your records. The second question is, in Chicago, it's $16 the cost. How much is the cost? $16. So I think each county varies as far as cost is, to do this. So you would have to check with the county that you was convicted in to try to find out the cost.
Okay, great. Now, I understand also that you can get an eviction sealed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So is that just like anything else? You just go through the normal processes?
Exactly. And again, that's different from conviction or sealing of criminal records. I would strongly again suggest the listeners to go to illinoislegalaid.org and look under convictions and then type in sealing of convictions. And that'll give you a clear understanding of what you can and can't do.
Suppose you have a combination of charges that can be sealed and charges that can't be sealed. Can you go ahead and get some of them sealed, even though some of them will still remain? Can you do kind of a combination like that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely encourage someone to to get the ones that can be sealed in or expunged to go through the process. The ones that can't be, um, even though they can't be, you don't have as much baggage. You don't have it to carry when you're going in front of an employer or trying to do whatever it is you need to do to get your life back on track.
Yeah, that's right. Because, you know, these arrests, for example, I mean, sometimes people think, well, I got arrested, but they dropped the charges. Well, that doesn't disappear from your record. So if an employer gets your record and they see an arrest for armed robbery, or they see an arrest for retail theft, and they're operating a retail business, they're still going to be suspicious of you because of these charges, even though you weren't found guilty. So it's really important to recognize the power of this. I guess another question would be, if I just came out of prison yesterday, can I start the expungement process, or is there a delay, a waiting period that I have to go through?
Typically, they want you to wait 3 to 5 years. I mean, 3 years to prove that you are capable of doing whatever it is you want to do, that you're an upstanding citizen. However, if you're in prison or you're on supervised release and you go to school, you obtain some type of certificates, degrees, or your GED, that kind of shortens that process as far as waiting. When can you go and start the process of expungement in or sealing?
Okay. Well, one of the ways in which people, make this process happen is by attending the expungement and sealing summits that take place in Champaign County. We've been having them every year for several years, except for during the COVID time. But can you talk a little bit about what these summits look like, and who's eligible to come, and what are the benefits of going to one of these summits?
Oh, absolutely. Me and my colleague, Amy Clark, we was at Kennedy King on 63rd and Halsted in Chicago. And it was a summit there. And what that summit did, it created an atmosphere that it allowed people to come in, not having to pay the filing fees, because you asked that question, how much does it cost? They had attorneys there that helped them walk through the process. And so many people took advantage of that. These summits I needed. I was just amazed how the summits help individuals get past that point.
I mean, and we've had those, as I mentioned, for several years here in Champaign. I think the first year we did that, I mean, there must have been about 500 people that showed up. Of course, at that point, people weren't aware of what could be sealed and what couldn't. So everybody with any kind of conviction showed up. But since that time, we've done more public education. We're doing things like this so people won't waste their time. But if they have an opportunity, they can use it. I mean, the other thing that they do at these summits is that they pay for fingerprinting done, because you have to get your fingerprints done to do to go through this process. And typically the charge for that might be $40 or $50. But the summits, which are organized in our county by Land of Lincoln in conjunction with the county circuit clerk, um, they take care of the fingerprinting. So that's another big benefit. And we'll be having another summit in April of next year. So we really encourage people to attend these summits. You can get access to legal assistance. I mean, you don't actually need a lawyer to do this, right? But it could be helpful if you can get one, especially for free, right?
Exactly. And in the summit that we attended in Chicago, Sherry's Walker, who's associated with Access to Justice, West Side Justice Center, while the summit was going on, she was educating the audience or the crowd of what could and couldn't be sealed. Because like, as you said, a lot of people come, don't realize what can't be sealed or expunged, but they were showing slides and people was being educated at the same time.
And I should point out in Champaign County, First Followers has been doing that at these sealings as well, because a lot of times you have a large group of people that are sitting around waiting to get to see the lawyer, and that's a time when they can also be educated. So we've also had a number of people in our own organization who have been through the sealing or the expungement process, so they talk a little bit about their experience of doing this and a what were there any obstacles they faced, and then B, how it's benefited them in the long run. So Jerome, I think we're getting near the end here. I've done a pretty remarkable job of covering all of the topics here. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add before we close.
Um, Not at this point. I just want to thank you for the work that you guys are doing, the First Followers. Uh, and I'm glad that you allowed Illinois Legal Aid Online to partner with you guys. And thumbs up.
Okay, well, thank you. I do want to recommend to people that they use Illinois Legal Aid Online as an online resource. They can also come to First Followers. We have drop-in hours from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, Tuesdays and Thursdays at our drop-in center at 314 Cottage Court in Champaign. Or you can drop us an email at firstfollowerscu@gmail.com. And I just want to make a last point here, and that is that I think Jerome would agree with the idea that we believe that when someone walks out of that prison, that they should be done. They should be free. They shouldn't be continually penalized, what they call perpetual punishment for something that they did 5, 10, 20, 40 years ago. They shouldn't be dragging that behind them. So dealing with sealing and expungement is a partial step, but it needs to go much farther. We really need to eradicate the use of people's criminal backgrounds as a weapon against them succeeding and moving forward. But in the meantime, we encourage people to make use of the opportunities and the resources that are available in order to bring them some relief and get that conviction off their record so they can move ahead with their life. So we thank you very much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you at First Followers, seeing you online at Illinois Legal Aid Online, or at the summit in Champaign in 2024.
Or if you want to contact me, jwhite@illinoislegalaid.org.
Perfect. Okay, so please don't hesitate to reach out to us, to Jerome or First Followers. We're there to provide support and services, and we look forward to meeting you and speaking to you. Thank you very much.